This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
Yay.
Yay.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is Mr. George Bernal. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are an entrepreneur, but there's a lot of different areas and different businesses that you have. So I wanted to ask, what was the inspiration, or what kind of brought you to where you're at today? And if you could, tell us a little bit about your background, because you were mentioning off air that it kind of goes full circle. Mm-hmm. And so get on the starting point.
Yeah, let's just get for it.
Just
get for it.
Start on the starting point. Yeah.
Well, it's, pulling up here and my shop being literally a mile away.
Yeah.
But just here, coming up here, and it literally, the story starts on the street we're on, kind of. It's where I grew up. I grew up in Santa Ana, born and raised up right down the street by Mater Dei, and lived in every kind of neighborhood in Santa Ana, from every...
Nice, not so nice.
Not so nice. Actually, mostly not the nice neighborhoods, but it's still home. Grew up and bounced around a lot, different schools, and got into bad things, drugs, I was that little skater kid, even though I am Native American and half Hispanic. I was just always drawn to the ocean, and I lived in gang neighborhoods and was this kid skateboarding down the street. So I didn't kind of fit in, but I did, but I didn't, still had friends and everything, and it was cool. But I got into that scene and doing drugs and trying to escape my childhood trauma, and finally had the chance to get out. And when that moment came up, the opportunity of running away with the circus was that opportunity. And I met a girl when I was in high school, and her sister lived here in Fountain Valley, and I was going to Fountain Valley because I surfed and they had a surf team, and I figured there was no schools in Santa Ana that kind of fit my vibe of playing water sports and surfing and all that. So I ended up going to Fountain Valley, met this guy, and became friends with him, and he invited me into his family, and that family was the circus family. Very European, Hungarian, Italian. And the girl who I eventually left with to go move to New York and travel around the world, her sister lived, and she's like, "Oh, you gotta meet my sister." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna meet your sister." She came for the summer, hit it off, had this love affair when we were young, and it's like that love at first sight, young love, teenager, weird stuff, Well, she left. It was like one of those summers, like the summer you'll never forget, And then she left, and then my drug thing got worse. And then finally, a couple years later, we fell back in touch. And this was before TSA. Obviously, I'm aging myself. I'm 43. But I was flying to visit my cousin who was graduating, who lived in Kentucky. And this was when you could go up to the gate. And so they were in St. Louis, and I had a layover. And I had like an hour layover. So she came with her parents, and like, it was just like instant, like, we hit it off again. And she's like, come visit this summer. And she came, and I had to get out of here. I had to get out of Santa Ana. I had to get out of this whole scene that was kind of bringing me down. And she's like, "Why don't you come and work with us for the circus?" And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, really? Like, you think about circus, everybody's always like, oh, you're a carny. And I'm like, no, it wasn't that. It was like this European single ring. You know, I got to work with the Flying Walendas, who are famously known, and they do the tightrope walking. And I got to meet all these amazing people and spent 3 years just traveling all around the country, you know.
With the circus?
With the circus.
That is crazy.
And
what did you do in the circus?
So her dad, he kind of, and this is why I said goes for, that's where I got my work ethic from. They're very European. They're very tough love. Tough love. Like, we love you, but you gotta work hard and work your ass off. I mean, you think about it, these people would set up a show, perform, tear it down and every night and go.
Yeah.
Like, so it was this sense of, I don't even know how to, like, it was just a whole different perspective of life. You know, growing up here, and, you know, I didn't have my father. I didn't have a real father figure. I had my grandfather, but he was older. I didn't have anybody to give me, like, direction. So it was the first time in my life I had this father figure, and amazing man, like, just taught me my work ethic, and I took that, and I took everything I learned from him, and the love he showed me and the respect he gave to people for working hard and all that, and I brought it to where I'm at now. But so I did that for 3 years. Obviously, you grow up and you hit a certain age, and that love kind of fades, that young love, and still stayed in touch. Like, they're my family, you know. It's sad. I was recently in Florida. The mom passed away, who was like a mother to me, and I went out there to show my respect. And it was heartbreaking to see that, because it's also seeing Charlie, who was the man who taught me kind of who I am today. I never seen, other than my two grandparents, seen two people so in love with each other for so many years. It's just like these things we don't see anymore. And it's just like that person was everything to him, you know? And I got to see that, and I got to experience like all these things I never saw growing up, other than my grandparents when I was with them. But I got to see how somebody just adored someone and loved them, but then also had this crazy work ethic of just hard work and everything. So I did that, and I eventually missed home, and I wanted to come back. And so I came back and started working at Starbucks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was slinging coffee in 2000. Well, I came back in 2000. But I still had that niche, man. I was here, and I wanted to get back traveling again, you know. And I was missing that travel. I was missing the whole being somewhere different every couple months and all that. So the opportunity came up. I was working at the Starbucks in Fashion Island.
Okay.
And this was when it was where the Barnes & Noble is now. And I would have this client come in. We had a lot of local clients. Dennis Rock, like, you know, it was when they were all living there, and they would come in. And mind you, this is like 20 years ago, you know. And this one guy came in who was from Turkey. And he was like, hey, man, you're really good at what you do. You want to come open a coffee shop for me? I'm like, yeah. You know, this desire to travel and all that, I'm like, yeah. Like, no questions asked. He's like, okay, I'm leaving in a week. You want to go? I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, I do. I really do. And he's like, okay, well, do you have your passport? I'm like, no, I don't. So I get my passport expedited, and literally a week later, I'm on a plane.
To Turkey?
To Turkey.
What the heck? I did not know any of this.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad, though.
And never, mind you, at the show, I had this work ethic of like, so you asked me what I did for the show. I would set up and tear down and build stuff, and that's kind of where that niche of building and everything.
Yeah.
But I learned how to manage, because I would manage crews that would come in every city we would go in. So he's like, hey, and that's kind of what I did at Starbucks too. And he's like, hey, can you want to? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So I got on a plane, and it was crazy. So I got on the plane, and the plane was empty. But the only like 3 people that were sitting in my section were just two huge like powerlifting Turkish wrestler looking guy. I'm like, whoa, what the heck is going on? The whole time literally the cart would come by and they just go in and grab like vodkas and like alcohol, you know. And that was like my whole first scene traveling to Europe and everything. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like you could drink on a plane. It's like nothing happening. But anyways, I get into Turkey. They pick me up. And of course, they're like, oh, yay, American, let's go give them Turkish food. We go to eat, and the first thing I have they bring out is lamb's brain, boiled lamb's brain. I'm like, oh, cool. Great, I guess I'm going to experience this, you know? So anyways.
Did you eat it?
Yeah, of course I ate it. When I was in the show, like, I got to experience all that culture because it wasn't, you know, it was Hungarians, Italians, Russians, so we would have potlucks in the tent. You know, and so everybody would bring random foods and all that. So I got to experience all this stuff, you know. So when I got to Turkey, it was like, yeah, throw it at me, give it all to me, you know. So I got it was like ground up. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna take you to the site where we're gonna build this coffee shop, and I'm thinking it's like, oh, it's like a building, like it's right. Nah, man. I get there, it was a building, but it was dirt inside. I'm like, whoa, like, oh, well, you know how to do this, right? And I'm like, no, like, I know how to make coffee, you know? He's like, oh, no, we'll have construction. He's like, I just need direction. I'm like, all right, you know? So I gave him direction, and we designed it and got all the equipment and created a menu. And it was weird. It was at the time when Planet Hollywood.
Oh, dang, yeah.
You know, and so, you know, being European, he's like, I want to call it Planet Coffee House. I'm like, all right, cool, you know. All right, sure. All right, copying Planet Hollywood, but whatever. So he called it Planet Coffee House, and we created a menu. Had food, everything, and drinks, and was a huge success. And I got to be in Istanbul Life magazine.
That's pretty cool.
Which I can't find a copy of. And back then, you know, we didn't have camera phones.
Yeah.
I have like 5 pictures of me in Turkey.
How long were you there for?
I was there for a year.
Dang.
Yeah.
So you just completely up and left.
I up and left. Like, I mean, I did that when I was here.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be here. I was taunted by my past, and I was taunted by my drug addiction and all that. So it was just that niche of like, I can't be here. I can't be here. So I got up and left, and I wanted to experience the things, you know. It's like you traveled with the service, and when you experiencing these things that we don't have every day, it changes your perspective on life.
Yeah.
You know, and my work ethic, like even being in Turkey, like with my staff, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and they get paid $200 a month.
Yeah. Well, that's the stuff that people don't see here.
And they're so happy.
Yeah.
They are so...
Well, they're happy to have a job.
And
to work and to earn and live.
Yeah. And we take that for granted so much here. Take for granted, like, even right now, I drive around and I see help wanted signs. I've never seen so many help wanted signs.
Yeah.
And then people saying, I can't find a job. I'm like, dude, there are so many jobs out there right now. But it's just people are so selective at what they want to do, and they feel like they deserve all this. And I think that's the hard part with me too. It's everything would, and you know, our group of guys, we all work so hard to get what we got.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have our parents or anybody to hand us out anything. Like if something ever happened to me, like maybe I could reach out to a family member and help out, but I've always been, it's just like just survival. I feel like I've been trying to survive since I was a kid, man. And that's all I know is resilience, you know, bringing that, just get through it, you know, just get through it. And so anyways, back in Turkey, I met a girl right before I left, of course, young, 23, love. And she got pregnant in Turkey.
It wasn't your fault.
It was my fault.
Oh, no.
And honestly, I wanted to stay. I love it here. I'm going to stay here. But then girlfriend got pregnant, so I had to come home. I miss home, dude. As much as I loved it there, the moment I got off the plane, like tears.
Yeah.
You know, friends were there. Mind you, this is before 9/11.
Yeah.
So your friends met you at the gate, you know, and it was good to be home. And I had a kid coming. I was actually excited, man. I was super excited. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm back. I got to get a job, So I went and applied at Bloomingdale's and managed the department, like the men's
South
department.
Coast?
Yeah. No, at Fashion Island.
Fashion Island.
And wasn't my thing. Wearing suits, it's just...
Yeah.
I was like a free, it's just, I couldn't deal with the retail thing. And I took off. I'm like, I'm going to take the summer off and get a part-time job and surf all summer. And this was like before the baby came. Like, I'm going to try to enjoy some time before the baby comes and all that. And so I got a job at a sign company, like a couple miles from the beach in Newport. And that's where I started learning how to fabricate stuff and all that. So then I had my child, and first time I like had this sense of vulnerability. This like, oh, I never knew I could love something more than this,
Yeah.
And I was so connected, and it was amazing. Like just this whole new. I mean, you guys as parents know.
Yep.
It's just this whole.
It's a life
feeling, life-changing thing, a feeling you never felt before. And you're like, wow, this is crazy. So I was working at the sign shop, and the company I worked for, they did a lot of local politic, like electoral stuff, like signage and all that. Mm-hmm. So I was always out during election season and working late, traveling all around. And I got home late and went in to check on my daughter, who was about 9 months now, and noticed she started having seizures. And I went and woke her mom up, and she, I'm like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on. Emily keeps shaking and all this stuff, and so we rushed her to Hoag. We lived in Costa Mesa at the time, and within that time of being a couple minutes away, I don't know how many seizures she had over and over again. So then we got there and ran all these tests, and like, we think your daughter has cerebral palsy. So we started seeing all these specialists, and then a year goes by and she's like on all these seizure medications. Like, oh, we don't know what's going on. She might have a form of epilepsy, cerebral palsy. She was very functional, like very smart, but just wasn't mobile. Like, her legs they didn't work. I remember we would do therapy, and the therapist would bring this little walker. She was like 2 years old, and she'd have this little walker, but she was always smiles, always smiles. And then finally it was December of 2003. And my girlfriend at the time, her mother just came back from visiting her family in San Francisco. And she just started having seizures. She got really bad jaundice and started having seizures again. And I took her in. We were with Kaiser at the time, the one off Lakewood. And I get there, and they're like, we got to send her up to LA. Like, we don't know what's going on. Everything starts shutting down. And so we'll get to LA, and I was there for a week. Just, they're running all these tests, and I'm like, I need a break. Like, I need to, like, we're at the Kaiser and right where the Scientology building is.
Yeah.
And so I would take walks, and I would walk around, and I'm like, dude, this is crazy. It's like concrete jungle.
Yeah.
You can't escape. Like, you can't escape. There's no escape to try to go
anywhere. Yeah.
Get some peace, And I'm like, I need a break. And so her mom came and stayed with her. I'm like, I just need a day. Like, I'm just gonna go to work and try to get my mind off stuff. And then I was with my good friend Brian, who worked with me, and we're out to lunch, and I get a call from her, and she's crying hysterically, and she's like, you need to come back. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, they don't know what to do. They don't think she's gonna make it. I'm like, what? And I break down. We're at Super Pollo in Costa Mesa. It's funny, man. I drive around everywhere, and it's just these memories of these good and bad times, like wherever you go, you know. And so I get him. My buddy Brian drives me up, and I'm hysterical, and they're like, go in this room, and there's like 5 doctors, you know, you got neurologist, pediatrician, this person, like, we don't know what's up with your daughter. Like, we have no idea what's going on. We've tried everything, it's not getting any better, and we don't know what to do. And you know, I was 25 at the time.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not supposed to deal with that stuff at 25 years old. It's like, she's on life support now. Like, you guys have to decide. And I'm like, how does a 25-year-old supposed to decide if they want to keep their child alive? At that point, it just becomes selfish, you know, for our own reasons, just to, you know, and so that Friday we let our family know and had them come and say, hey, if you guys want to say goodbye, it's time, because we got to make this choice, and we're going to do it Friday night. And so we did that. And I remember, like, I was holding her, and the nurse is like, okay, we're going to turn off all the things and all that. And you know, finally I took the last breath, and at that moment, I just had this vision of her finally walking, dude. Like, I never, ever saw her walk other than a walker, and it was just like, I just saw her. That was the only vision I saw. I'm like, oh, she's walking happy and all that. I'm like, okay, cool. This is amazing, you know? That was the last vision I saw. She took her last breath. Dude, so crazy. I was living, unfortunately, me and her mother were separated, so my friend took me home, and I was living at Lake Forest at the time. And all my friends were there, and you know, they made dinner for me and everything, and I went, it was like midnight, and he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I have no idea what I want to do. And he's like, you want to go to a movie? I'm like, sure. Let's go to a movie, you know? And so we went and saw Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher.
Oh my gosh, that's so old.
You know, and I know it so ages me, right? And so I'm in the theater, and I'm like thinking about, I'm like, dude, I literally just took I'm sitting in the theater looking at everyone. I'm like, I literally just took my daughter off life support 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, what am I doing? So anyways, I go home and go to sleep, and my aunt, who used to be a nun, she's not a nun anymore, who actually lives down the street where my grandparents kind of grew up, she's like, all right, look, we gotta figure this out, you know, we gotta bury your daughter. So I had to do all that. Like, I had to go and make all those decisions, and it's just something somebody at 25 shouldn't have to deal with, you know, but you do. And I'm grateful I had my aunt at the time to help me with that. And so I did that and had a funeral and everything. And then a couple weeks later, life went downhill. It just all hit me at once, because when something happens, I'm sure as you as a fighter, you're in that moment and you're not kind of dealing with it. And then it just hits you. Like, all of it hits you at once. And it did. And I just started drinking again, and just doing everything wrong, you know, and getting back into my bad habits. And I just told myself, I got to do something, or I can't let this second chance of doing something with my life go to waste. And that's that moment I woke up and I'm like, I'm going to start my own company. And so I did that. I woke up, I got a job working for a production company called Pump House. They reached out to me, and they knew I did good custom work. And my first job on my own with my company was for the NAMM show.
That's cool.
You know, and it was for Remo drums.
Yeah.
And I built some custom stuff for their trade show booth and all that. So that was the first job. Got some money, and then it just kept escalating. Got in that industry. You know, that industry, it's a lot of older guys back then. And so they're kind of like a dying breed of like neon signs and all that stuff and custom work. So that kind of launched me into this whole new perspective of custom trade show design and all that. So I got in with Rip Curl, 686, Harvey's, you know, Dana.
Yeah.
That's how I met Dana.
That's crazy. I did not know that either.
So Dana, my first shop was in off Airway, which where Rip Curl is kind of. So that's how I met Rip Curl, and I started working them. And then from there, I wanted a little retail spot. So I got one off 17th in Tustin.
Okay.
And it used to be next door to Sid's Tattoo.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but we were in the
I
back.
got this tattoo from Sid's.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dana used to get tattooed at Sid's.
What the heck, man?
So I had my little sign shop, and he was getting tattooed, and he's like, "Oh, we just got a new building off Broadway in Buffalo," and I'm like, "Oh, cool! I'll come do your sign." You know? And that's how I met Dana, back in 06, and he's been literally one of my best friends since then.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
And first of all, I have to go back to if you couldn't tell or hear, you got Manny over here freaking balling. I was choking it back, but not even any 25-year-old should have to do with that, but no like parent should ever have to deal with that.
No.
So the fact that you had to do that at a young age, one, man, like I couldn't imagine that. But two, having the ability, like you said, to like take a second chance of life, I feel like that probably had a huge role into like pushing you to where you're at today, I'm assuming.
It does, and it's a struggle. I have two beautiful daughters now, Gracie and River, who are amazing. One's going to be 13 and one's 3.5. But dude, it took me 11 years to put a headstone on Emily's grave.
Yeah.
11 years to finally have the ability to be like, okay, I could do this now. Like you never stop grieving. We deal with it in certain ways, but 11 years, and finally I did it, and I'm like, oh, drive by it, you know. And what's great, it's a great motorcycle ride to there. Off Jamboree at Holy Sepulchre by Irvine Park.
Yeah.
And the view's amazing, and that's where my grandparents are and my other family members. So going there, it's great. I'll go hang out with my grandparents and like lay between them because they're like under a big oak tree, and I'm just like, what's up, Grandpa? You know.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a veteran too, and it's, you just have those moments, and people expect you to grieve when they think you should, and it's like grieving.
It's
that
different
process,
for everybody.
it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Don't ever push anyone. Don't ever assume you have all the answers. It's like everybody's different, man. Everybody is different, and like I said, 11 years to put a headstone on my daughter's grave. You know.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have taken that long, but it did, and it was a struggle when I had my other daughter, Gracie. Like, you give up that vulnerability, you know, and you're so afraid to let that be free again.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggle I had with her of just like, don't get me wrong, I love them to death, and I would do anything for my kid, but it's just, there's this little part of you is so afraid to give that love again because you're so afraid it's going to be taken away. Mm-hmm. But every day I wake up and try as hard as I can to just give as much as I can. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I became addicted to work. And I got to where I'm at is because of it's my coping mechanism of, okay, I'm not going to do drugs anymore, but I still got to survive and do this. So I put all that energy into work, you know, and like I tell, you know, unfortunately me and Gracie's mom didn't work out, but she's a great woman, and we met at the time. She just lost her mom. I just lost my daughter. So our love was sorrow.
Yeah.
You know, we fell in love and had this beautiful child out of sorrow, and realized we weren't made. We didn't find each other with like love. We found each other through needing each other at that time, and realizing that and having that opportunity to understand that, and made us realize like we don't need to be together to love this child, and we could be together and give her everything she needs, you know?
Yep.
And make her happy. And understanding that, makes our relationship so much better, that we could spend time with each other and there's no animosity. We both know, and she's happily married and has 3 more children, beautiful children, with a friend of mine, Basel, who I'm very close to, and we both met him at the same time. And now my new wife, Gladys, who I have River with, is amazing too. And being 43 and finding someone and not settling and being upfront and honest, like, this is who I am. I have these problems. I have these issues. Like, this is what happened in my life. I dedicate a lot of my energy to my work. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but it's just how I cope. And her understanding that and being someone who gets that about me, it just makes life so much easier. The compromise is there, and the understanding of late nights, you know, and working 16-hour days, and she always knows I'm coming back home and I'm not out doing something bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy. Like you said, you have a work ethic that in today's world does not exist very often. And we didn't even really touch on it at the very beginning, but so you have George Bernal custom
made.
Yeah, thank you. So you do so many rad things, and that's how I first kind of, before Hidden House, I was, you know, scrolling through Instagram trying to find people to do like different custom stuff for our St. Anna shop, and that's how I stumbled across your profile. And then you came into the shop, and then obviously a lot of mutual friends and stuff like that. But dude, the stuff you do is awesome, and that's like launched you into so many other things. But then you have Vacation Bar in downtown St. Anna. And so kind of touch on some of those, like what you've been able to do through like your custom builds.
So George Bernal custom, so leaving the sign company and doing the trade show, my one of my best friends, Lisa Michaelis, who owns Live Love Spa, she is connected in the spa industry, and this opportunity came up to design the Laguna Cliffs Marriott in Dana Point, in their spa, and they wanted this whole Greenovation, and she's like, you should bid the job, start your company doing that, because I redid her offices and all that. I haven't really launched GBCM then, and I'm like, all right, and she's like, you're going up with some architects though, I'm just letting you know. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll design. So that was my first big job with GBCM.
Okay.
I actually beat out the other architects. They like my design.
That's cool. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah,
I've done catering events there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the custom woodwork in the spa, and
that's all your stuff.
Yeah, all my stuff. And that was the first big job I got that kind of launched it. And then from there, I started doing like custom things and had like a show, and that launched it more, and then more jobs started coming in, to eventually I didn't have to do the trade show stuff anymore, and that took over. And that started in 2008 and just been going strong, and all referral based. And like I said, with Dana, he was my client who became my best friend. You know, Lisa, who got me that job, like pushed me to get that, is one of my best friends. And what's funny is everybody knows each other.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
It's neat though.
Yeah.
Because it's really what business should be.
Yeah.
You know, it's like everyone kind of helps each other. You do a good job. I get your back. I refer you. Like it really goes to what, like, the American dream is. You can build something on your own and then go and live it out, and hopefully, if you're a good person, help other people, you know, like, oh, I got you. You do coffee. Cool. Go to my buddy's shop. You love coffee.
Yeah.
Go to Hidden House.
And Luis, and all those, like Dana, all those guys, that's all we do. You know, Luis has been throwing me. I'm like, hey, Luis, if you got any extra work. Within this last week, he's like, dude, I got you another job. I'm like, all right, slow down, but don't slow down.
Oh, it's rad. One of my new clients is because of Ben.
Yeah.
They just came to his coffee shop, and he's like, yeah, my buddy does that. And then now I have a new client.
It's such a small world, and it gets to a point where you find these people that are in your life, and we all just want to help each other, man.
Yeah.
Like, we all get excited when a good deal goes through on some real, like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you know,
like when someone else wins, you win.
Yes.
Well, that's how it should be, unless you're a jerk off. And, you know.
Which there are a lot of those.
Yeah.
1 out of 10, there's always a jerk off.
For sure.
So the GBM, you know, that started, and I started getting huge success, a lot of referrals, and then the opportunity came up with Vacation, which is a restaurant bar in downtown Santa Ana. Originally, my friend Chris, my partner, Chris Parker, he invested in this, the opportunity came up to where they needed more finances and they needed help. And so
In Vacation.
It was a different concept at the time. Me and Chris came up with the Vacation idea.
Okay.
And Chris is, me and him became friends through mutual friends, and we kind of hit it off because we traveled a lot and experienced a lot of the world and experienced food. We're both into like motorcycles. We're both into eating and seeing the world. So we're like, oh, let's, when we're designing Vacation, it's like, let's design something like all the places we've been to.
Yeah.
Like the Jane Hotel in New York, or like bringing the couch vibe. And we took all these places, or like being in Europe or somewhere, and just bringing all these cool cultures and bringing it into one spot. And coming back, with all my travels and having my businesses in Santa Ana, I wanted to come back and give back to the city I grew up in, and so all my businesses are here. I live here, and all that revenue goes back into the city to keep rebuilding. So when Vacation, we started designing it, and we didn't really have a plan. We had a footprint, and I usually keep everything in my head, and my workers hate it because I don't write anything down. Like, we don't know what to do, man. Like, you don't tell us anything, and it's all in your head, and we don't have any. We have to wait for you to tell us, like, do this, do that. I'm like, I don't know. That's how I work. I've been doing it for so long by myself. I don't know how to translate that. So when we're building Vacation, it was literally as we went. Some cocktail napkins, sketches.
Yeah.
We're eating late at night. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. We're eating late at night, and that's all we had. We don't have any like drawings or anything, and we just literally built as we go.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
We'll have to go. Like,
Yeah,
it's like more
go.
like we have to leave our kids, obviously, like go do like a date night or something.
For sure.
But it's pretty sick. You walk in and you don't feel like you're in Orange County.
No.
And I'm assuming that's obviously the goal.
Yeah.
But it's super cool.
Does it make you feel more like genuine that you built it that way?
So my connection, the fact I built it from the ground up, the connection I have to it, even when COVID hit and everything, I couldn't let it fail.
Yeah.
It's just a part of you, man. It's just like when you build something from the ground up and you watch it grow into what it is, I couldn't.
That's how I feel about Hidden House San Juan.
it's
Well,
just-
here too, but
yeah.
San Juan in particular.
Yeah, you in the fact I bring something back to the neighborhood that people don't get to experience all the time,
Yeah.
with travel, because a lot of people don't travel, a lot of people are scared, a lot of people can't do it, and it's cool to be a part of that, bringing something like that back to the neighborhood. And being there, I'm sure you deal with it too. It's like nobody thinks you're the owner, because everybody has this perception of owners of sitting back in the corner and telling people what to do and yelling and giving free stuff. No, man, I'm like cleaning vomit up in the bathrooms. I'm running food. I'm mopping. Like, these are all the things I don't have to, but I also lead by example. I wouldn't have my employees do something I wouldn't do myself, or ask them to do something I wouldn't do. And so when people find out, like, oh, they're shocked, because they don't expect that, because they assume that, why is the owner like bar backing and cleaning glasses and mopping bathrooms and all that?
It's a mind-blowing like mentality. Same thing though. I'll be like bussing tables at San Juan, or I'll be picking trash up off the ground. And I'm not joking. Like last week, this guy's like, "Don't you have people to do that?" And I literally looked at him and was like, "Yeah, me.
Yeah.
It's my business. There's trash on the ground. I'm gonna freaking pick the trash up off the ground."
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Don't you have people?
Yeah, you walk past a table that has glasses. Why are you gonna walk past and, oh, that's not my station? Nah.
Yeah.
You just do it. It's just, but that's that work mentality, and maybe it's that old school like, that's what, I don't know any other way. I don't know any other way to do it. I work hard. It's what I love, and even the hardest part is during the pandemic, because short staff. And I can't thank my wife enough of her like understanding that, because I would work at the shop all week, and then Friday
woodworking
the woodworking
Yeah.
shop, and then from there I would go home, shower, and then be at vacation Friday and Saturday night, working, bartending, or doing whatever. I was just nonstop. I would see, and then go to the shop on Sunday and work sometimes, and literally not have any time for my. And she was so understanding, and it was amazing. But she also knows me. She also knows that's just George, like, just workaholic and doesn't give up on stuff. And that's when you got to have date night on Thursdays.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
You
Well, I
gotta-
mean, dude, that mentality, though, has carried you through, just like listening, because I didn't know a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like we were saying right before we started, I was like, I want to hear, like, the story that I keep hearing about.
Yeah.
And I have not asked you specifically, like, when we're at the coffee shop or
Yeah.
something, I have not asked you specifically so I could just wait. Because Luis had, like, said something the other day. He's like, oh, yeah, George has, like, a pretty crazy story. And I was like, no, I don't want to know. I'll wait, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, if I was just like to recap it, me like looking at it from an outside perspective, like that, for lack of better terms, like addictive personality is what has like enabled you to get from growing up in Santa Ana, getting into bad things, having a drug addiction, alcohol, to traveling, free spirit, to be able to like put all that aside, come back, fall into the same like issues because of like life circumstances.
Yeah.
Like it would be really hard, especially if you have an addiction already, to go through what you went through and not
Yeah.
fall back into it.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
for like a lot of people, they would probably have felt harder
Yeah.
with having
It's-
like an addiction background.
It's a torture every day.
Yeah.
Every day. I own a bar, and I haven't drank in 6 years.
I was gonna ask you that. Do you?
No, I don't drink anymore.
I know-
I'll like taste stuff if we're doing tastings and
Yeah.
stuff, but I spit it out. And
That's Leslie from Boss Cat.
Uh-huh.
She's been sober. How long did you say? A few years, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember her saying,
Yeah. So she's been sober and she owns whiskey bars.
yeah.
Like,
A majority of smart people tend not to,
use their own supply.
Yeah.
Get high on the
Yeah,
supply.
I don't supply.
you know, it's just, it's a smart business
Well, yeah.
way. And,
yeah.
and unfortunately, coffee, you have to drink it to survive.
I know.
Especially me now. You guys haven't gotten there yet, but you're going to start feeling it. When I hit 38, I'm like, oh, is this what they're talking about? Needing coffee.
I already need it.
I feel it now.
I mean, you're a fighter, man.
I
You know,
still need it.
and it's just like, I can't imagine. And that's the other thing, sitting a cage fighter, a Marine. You guys are true warriors, and it's awesome to sit here with
Him
you
way
two.
more than me.
Hey, man,
I just
you
got
walk
paid.
in the cage with
Yeah.
in your underwear with
Yeah,
thousands
it's a
of
little
people
weird.
looking at you. You
Pretty
know,
cool.
Yeah.
No, the respect I have for both of what you guys have done in your lives is amazing. Like,
Well, and likewise, that's why we wanted you to
Yeah.
come on and share your story.
I couldn't even talk. I was crying like a baby.
but
I know.
that's what's so great about meeting people, and because you don't know, you just assume you see this person every day.
Yeah.
There's a story behind everything. you know?
100%, yeah.
There's a story about that one guy who rides the bike down Grand every day and rides home
Yep.
and wears the same jersey, and I've seen him for years. And I don't know if he works over here, but I guarantee there's something about that whole situation.
Yeah.
He's just, you know,
Well, every person has a different story. And like
Yeah.
what we were saying is like when I had the opportunity to partner with Manny on this, it's like, yeah, you can get a bunch of like really cool high profile people,
Mm-hmm.
but not discrediting any of them. They're obviously awesome to hear their stories too, but it's like the everyday Joe that has amazing stories, right?
Yeah.
It's you have built everything from nothing
Yeah.
and you're still here in Santa Ana, which is, you know, an upcoming place. It's been upcoming for like freaking 15 years, but it's one of those cool things where born and raised, came back, and now you're trying to pour into the city to maybe help eventually get rid of some of the crap that you fell into. I mean, it's always going to be around here, obviously, but
yeah. And it's like you were saying before, there all these up and coming woodworkers, like my buddy Jay, who wanted to get, and now he's off on his own. Like he left his job and he's doing that full time. It's like once you get to a certain point and you want to help, You want to make people believe they're capable of doing it too. And I push all these, my shop's always been open to anybody. Elizabeth came during the pandemic.
Yeah, made that little pegboard.
Yeah, I posted. I'm like, anybody who's sitting at home and not doing anything, come to the shop and build something. Elizabeth, out of every single person who's like, oh, I want to come do, Elizabeth was the only one that came.
That's so cool.
And I sat with her and her dad and helped her with everything. And she built like a little rock climbing training board.
She has it mounted in her room.
Yeah, and she did that all her own.
That's super.
I just helped her, But there's so many and it's a trade that is...
It's like dying, right?
Yeah, all trades are dying. We need people, and you want to help encourage it. It's like I said, so many mountaintops for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this is another platform for you to motivate somebody else.
I hope
someone
so.
That tunes in
I hope
and
so.
It's like, oh man, I've been down that path, and I've gone through battles, and the way George has been able to overcome it and be successful, and however you define success. Hopefully your story and what you're sharing, how you're opening up, allow someone to really take that to heart and be motivated by it,
Yeah. And we've almost said this every episode, but you have to like recapture it. It's almost like the analogy of they only see fighters under the lights, right?
Yeah.
They don't see the hustle and grind, blood, sweat, and tears that it took to get there. And same for you. Like they only see you as a guy on HGTV or a guy that has this really dope bar and restaurant. Like you walk in and it looks like it cost, especially with somebody that's like an operator, it looks like it costs several $100,000 to build out, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they only see the final product.
Yeah.
They don't see what it takes.
Hard work.
Yeah. They don't see you cleaning puke up in the freaking bathroom.
No.
They see you on HGTV.
It took me, I've been on my own since 2005, and up until a couple of years ago is when I'm like, oh, I could relax. And I base my success off, and I talked to the guys about this, the fact I know I'm successful and I'm content with my life when I could go and have dinner wherever I want and not worry about if I'm going to be able to pay for it. I'm like, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I don't need no fancy cars.
Yeah.
I just got this truck after having my old truck for 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't need all that. Like me and my shop and I'm so content with that. I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses. I'm like, I don't have any Joneses I want to keep up with, I'm happy with my life.
Yeah.
And all that happiness just is that hard work and not blaming anybody. I could sit here and blame my mom for my shitty childhood, who I love to death, but our connection isn't the same anymore. I just went through shit. Or I could blame all these other people, like why my life turned out shitty. And it's like, why? Yeah. Why am I going to do that? That doesn't solve anything. It's done. It's not going to fix anything. So what you do is you just keep pushing forward. Mm-hmm. You have that resilience, and you're like, I could get through this. And after losing my daughter, it's like, if I could get through that, I could get through anything. I get through anything that comes my way. Yeah. Like that is probably one of the hardest things to ever have to deal with. I know people who can handle it and take their own lives because of that. When it all happened, I kind of joined some groups to talk to people, and I felt so, there was just no life in them anymore. I felt bad for their husbands or wives. It's just, they're like, we don't know what to do. Like they're just, they don't know what to do. And it's just, I didn't let that, I took the opportunity to do something better with my life for not just myself, but for her. Yeah. To not let it go to waste, and finally met amazing people that I get to share, along with my close friends now. And we talk about that too with Alberto and Luis and Dana. It's just like, God, it takes forever to find just a good group of guys that understand what you're going through. Yeah.
That don't want anything in return.
No, not at all. And just being a business owner and owning your own business, you can't talk to just regular people about that. Yeah. Because they don't know. They don't know all, like we were talking about, all the hard work that goes into it. And having those guys to feed off of and get those ideas of like, oh yeah, maybe try this, and helping each other through certain things. It's amazing to have that group of people around you,
It's awesome.
And all we want to do is give back and help.
I told you guys can give me that cowboy cauldron thing.
But it's like it's like we all, Ben sells his motorcycle, and every time I post, I'm like, oh man, I miss it. I'm like, Ben, come ride with us. We got an extra bike for you, you know?
I know.
We're going to. Yeah.
Motorcycles scare me.
Nah, dude, they're life-giving is what they are. They're not life-taking. They're life-giving.
Yeah.
There's nothing like being on a motorcycle on a Southern California day with the sun and wind and But my man, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
It was awesome. I've known you for years now and had no clue about any of that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was super cool. Mr. Manny?
No, I'm good. That was freaking awesome.
Thanks for letting me share the story.
Yeah.
Can't say anything else other than I'll cry. You got to plug.
Tell people where to like find you on social media and stuff
George
like that.
Bernal Custom Made on IG, HGTV. A few episodes.
HGTV,
Hidden Potential, Wreck My House. Jasmine's amazing. She just came out with a new book, and it's great. A lot of my work's in it.
That's awesome.
So that's awesome. She just was on HGTV magazine.
That's so
I got to
cool.
get her in here.
That'd
She'd
be awesome.
a great interview. Her story's amazing too.
My wife and I literally love her show.
Yeah.
We were telling you that outside,
yeah.
but even before I knew you were on it, we love that show. There's like a few shows that we watch and a few that we can't stand, you know?
Yeah.
And she was one of them. And then Vacation Bar. What's
Vacation Bar. Just Vacation Bar.
Vacation Bar on Instagram.
On Instagram. Right now, you know, with COVID, minimal days open right now. We're doing a lot of pop-ups on Thursdays, trying to give back to the up-and-coming chefs. So if anybody out there wants to do a pop-up, reach out to either me or Vacation.
That'd be awesome.
Vacation Bar, and we're, you know, Bandito Tacos just had a residency there and killed it,
sick.
and it's been good. So I'm always about giving back to the neighborhood and these up-and-coming.
Helped Brooke out.
Oh, yeah. She's like, we had that dinner, and I'm like, Brooke, you want to come cook? She's like,
so
cool.
Brooke's one of our baristas, and he had her come do stuff. I was like, wait, what the heck?
That's pretty cool.
That's the cool thing about small circles, but
yeah.
All right. Well,
sweet. Well, thank you so much, man. Appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing and being honest and opening up.
Yeah.
Hoping that you know, someone gets motivated by it and inspired.
If we get one person, that's
all that matters.
100%.
That is all that matters.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, you guys make sure to go support him. Go to Vacation, check out some of his work if you guys need custom work, and just remember that everything was impossible until someone did it.
Bam.
So, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Fight Within Podcast. Find us on all audio platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you guys like to listen to it. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for continuing to listen to it and watch it. We can see the growth on our analytics, and just want to thank you guys for supporting us. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kingdom Nutrition. Make sure you guys go and visit their site over at kingdomnutrition.com and enter promo code MFW10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Kingdom Nutrition carries the best sports supplements on the market. They manufacture and curate their own line of supplements with the highest quality ingredients, including a lean protein, weight gainer protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, and an array of other products. They've recently created the world's first vegan chickpea protein, and it tastes amazing. I'm a big dude. I like food, and I like chocolate. So when they told me it comes in chocolate and vanilla, I got really happy. But if you're a workout enthusiast and you want to change up your diet, change up your protein, go check out their vanilla chickpea protein. It mixes well with anything. It'll blend great with a smoothie. So to get your hands on any of these products, just make sure and go visit kingdomnutrition.com. Remember to enter promo code MFW10 and get 10% off your next purchase. Let's go.